Good morning, my dear friends. In today's video, we are going to see some important technical questions and answer that a firefighting engineer and fire alarm engineer must know before he attends any interview. Let's start the video. So here the first question is, should I provide the sprinkler in the elevator hoistway or the lift shaft? Okay, so that's one of the important thing. So here as you see in this image, I have taken the sprinkler piping from the ceiling level and I have taken down to the sprinkler shaft or lift shaft, and here I have given the sidewall sprinkler. So as per NFPA, sidewall sprinklers shall be installed at the bottom of each elevator shaft, not more than 2 feet or 600 mm above the floor of the pit. So this is the lift pit, and from here within 600 mm, maximum 600 mm, you have to provide the sidewall sprinkler for the protection. And here we have the lift door, and this is the basement level or finish level, and here you can see I have taken the 25 mm sprinkler pipe as I mentioned from the ceiling till the bottom of the lift pit. And the next question is, HVAC duct width is 1000 mm and the sprinkler is located 500 mm above the duct. For example, you have the cross main pipe here. From here the branch pipe is passing like this, and you have the sprinkler here, and this sprinkler from this distance to the obstruction, it is more than like 500 mm, and this obstruction width is 1000 mm. So the condition is like we need the sprinkler or not. So that's the question. So sprinklers shall be installed below fixed obstruction if the width is more than 1.2 meter. So in our case the width is like 1000 mm, so I don't need a sprinkler here. And if the continuous or non-continuous obstruction that interrupt the water discharge in a horizontal plan and that is located above the duct is more than 450 mm above the top of the duct, then additional sprinkler below the duct is not required. In our case, as I told you, this 500 mm from the obstruction to the sprinkler, so it is more than 450 mm. So again I don't need the sprinkler because I am exceeding this limit. Suppose if I have the sprinkler, this distance is less than like 300 mm here between these two, then I have to provide the sprinkler below the duct. So like you see in this image, I have shown the sprinkler which is installed below the obstruction also. So when you install the sprinkler below this obstruction like this, you have to follow the minimum distance 1 inch and maximum distance 12 inch from the obstruction. And the third question is, standard sidewall sprinkler in lintel or soffit area. So like you see in this image, we have the soffit area like this. So this is the so like a section view, and we have the slope of the roof, and here we have the soffit area as I mentioned here. So the first rule is, if this area is more than 8 inch, okay, then we have to provide the additional sprinkler below also. Like this is the normal sprinkler, again we have to provide additional sprinkler. That additional sprinkler is like a pendant sprinkler. Okay, so if the soffit exceed more than 8 inch width. And second condition, if it is maximum 8 inch, then again I don't need a sprinkler here, and this sprinkler as usual we have to provide one sprinkler here. And the minimum distance from this area to this one, there is no rule, but the maximum allowable distance from the ceiling to the sprinkler, that rule as per NFPA 13 we have to follow. But below the sprinkler, this area to the sidewall sprinkler, the reflector, there is no minimum rule. Okay, only the maximum rule we have to follow. If it is less than 8 inch, if it is more than 8 inch, then we have to provide the pendant sprinkler below also. As per NFPA 13, what is obstruction and unobstruction rule? So like you see here, if the distance between the two structural member is up to 8 feet and 6 inch, it is called as obstruction because the sprinkler will be installed somewhere here. If it is more than 7 feet and 6 inch, then it is called as a unobstructed. So like you see here, the structural members are here and here, and the distance between the two is 7 feet and 6 inch. More than that, then it is called as a unobstruction. So the maximum distance and the protection area for the unobstruction and obstruction is different. So we should aware of this rule before we start the calculation. What is the minimum and maximum distance of sprinkler installation from the ceiling? So this condition is like you see here, we have the structural members. For example, if you go to workshop building, this type of thing, you can see the structural members. So in this condition, what you have to do is, from the bottom of the structural member, you have to follow 1 inch to 6 inch to the sprinkler top of the deflector. And when you follow this condition, the maximum of 22 inch must be maintained from the ceiling bottom to the top of the deflector. Okay, so you should comply both this condition as per NFPA. And coming to the next one, so here you can see this the ceiling is not a normal concrete ceiling, it is like a corrugated roof ceiling. So here the first rule is, less than 3 inch measure to the bottom of the deck. For example, this depth is less than 3 inch, then you have to measure this distance from the bottom of this this roof. Suppose this is more than 3 inch, then you have to measure from the highest point of the deck. Okay, so you need to measure from this area from highest point till the top of the deflector. So you can see here this is less than 3 inch. So that is the reason I measured from the bottom of the this roof to the top of the deflector. It should be maximum 22 inch. 22 inch. Okay. The next question is, what is the minimum and maximum distance from walls for a standard spray sprinkler? First of all, standard spray sprinkler as per NFPA 13, the definition is upright sprinkler, pendant sprinkler and sidewall sprinkler is called as a standard spray sprinklers. Okay, other than this one, we have lots of sprinkler like extended coverage, ESFR, CMSA. So these three sprinkler we can say like a standard spray sprinkler. So first condition, maybe most of the people know that minimum distance from the wall should be maintained like 100 mm. So from the wall we should have minimum 100 mm till the center of the deflector of the sprinkler. So maximum distance from the wall is half of the maximum allowable distance based on the hazard. For example, if you have the ordinary hazard, then it is like ordinary hazard, the maximum distance between the sprinkler is 4.6 meter. So half of the 4.6 mean it is 2.3 meter. So the maximum distance from the wall should be 2.3 meter. Okay, for example, I can show you the diagram. So here you have the sprinkler. So this is the maximum distance from the wall to the sprinkler is, it should be 2.3 meter for the ordinary hazard. But the problem is, if you make 2.3 meter, surely you will get the dead zone in the corner of this point. Okay. So if you make one circle, for example, again, so here is the building area. I have one sprinkler here. So if I maintain like 2.3 meter and 2.3 meter here, and if I make the circle like maximum production area like this, then we will get the dead zone here. Okay, so that's the reason the experienced engineer will not go with the maximum production, maximum distance like 2.3 meter. We have to reduce less than that, like 1.5, 1.6 to avoid the corner dead zone area. So next question is, how to measure the distance from the wall if the wall is curved? So normally if we have the wall like this is the section view, we have the branch line like this and we have the sprinkler here. So we can measure the distance from here to here if the wall is properly rectangle like this. So if you have the curved surface like is shown here, then you have to measure like you have to follow two conditions. At the first you can see the intersection of curved surface to the floor. That means this is the wall curved area and this is the intersection point. So from this intersection point you have to measure the sprinkler deflector. Till the sprinkler deflector center you have to measure the distance. Okay, and same like at the floor level from the wall. So this is the curved area and from the floor is here. So this distance you have to measure. So you have to follow the measurement like this if you have the curved wall. The next question is related to the manually actuated alarm initiating device. So the operating part of the manually actuated alarm initiating device shall be not less than and not more than some distance from the finished floor. So the operating part of the manually actuated alarm initiating device shall be not less than 42 inches and not more than 48 inch from the finished floor. And this question is about the fire extinguisher. We have a class A fire extinguisher. Class A means it is used for the wood, paper, this type of combustible material, not for the flammable liquid, not for the energized electrical equipment. So this is only for the wood, paper, this type of thing. So class A fire extinguisher, the travel distance from any point to the nearest fire extinguisher shall not exceed 75 feet. Okay, for example, this is the building with 450 feet and 150 feet. I have installed the class A fire extinguisher like this and I have followed the maximum travel distance of 22.9 meter. That means I will make a circle like this. When I place the sprinkler fire extinguisher, I make a circle like this. So here you can see after installing 6 fire extinguisher, we can find the dead zone. So this dead zone you have to avoid. You have to provide some additional fire extinguisher. So that point I will explain in the design of fire extinguisher. So this maximum fire extinguisher distance for the class A we have to follow 22.9 meter. Coming to the class B and class C, there are different fire extinguishers are there. So each have different travel distance. So class A it is 22.9 meter. Inches of clear space shall be maintained around the circumference of the fire hydrant as per NFPA 1. So we have to maintain like I shown here. If it is a fire hydrant here, so minimum 36 inches or 3 feet clear space shall be maintained around the circumference of the fire hydrant for the connection of fire department hoses in case of fire. Fire engine hoses in case of fire. So the next important question is, should we install the sprinkler in the electrical room? So first we will see the requirement of sprinkler, then we will come to the condition. So first we will start from here. Does NFPA 13 apply here? So yes, we are following NFPA 13 for the sprinkler installation. So we need to see the edition like 2019-2022 edition. If it is yes, then is room dedicated to electrical equipment only or not? So for this is the, for example, consider we have the electrical room. So this is dedicated only to the electrical equipment. So we are complying with this one. Then we need to check that only dry type or liquid type listed K class fluid electrical equipment used or not. So normally we have the dry type, oil type. For example, transformer, you are saying like dry type of transformer, oil type of transformer. There are different cases are there. So here they are asking particularly for the dry type or not. So if it is yes, then we have to see room is 2-hour enclosure including protection for the penetration. So even the fire sealant, everything, it should have minimum 2 hours or not. So if it is yes, mean is storage permitted in the room? So is other than the electrical equipment, is there any other storage is there in the room or not? So if it is no, then sprinklers are not required. If this is the condition exceed, then you have to provide the sprinkler system as per NFPA 13. Okay, so coming to the next one, if this is 2019-2022 edition, before that 2002 to 16 edition, there was one different, you can see here, is storage permitted in the room or not? But coming to this one, is combustible storage permitted in the room or not? Okay, so it was earlier combustible storage. Now from the 2019 edition onwards, that combustible word is removed and it become like only storage permitted in the room or not. If it is if there are any kind of storage, then surely we have to provide the sprinkler system. Okay, then coming to this concept, this requirement is only for basic electrical room like a switchboard, panel room, where 1000 volts are nominal or less is there. Okay, if it is like a medium voltage, high voltage room, of course there is compulsory, it's not allowed. So if it is less than 1000 volts, then we can see this spec. So according to NFPA 70, a dedicated electrical space is 1.8 meter above the equipment. So here you can see the electrical equipment. So the dedicated electrical space means 1.8 meter or 6 feet above the electrical equipment. So we are allowed to pass the HVAC duct, sprinkler piping or plumbing system, anything above this dedicated electrical space. That means you can see here we have passed the HVAC duct, exhaust duct here. This must be above the dedicated electrical spaces. So this is the first condition. So within the dedicated space, we are not allowed to pass any plumbing system or whatever it is, and also the working space also we are not allowed to pass anything. And one more thing, if you are passing above the dedicated electrical space, then this electrical equipment must be leak proof. Okay, so if there is any chance of the leakage of the water, if it is passed over the electrical equipment, this must be leakage proof. So mostly for the electrical roofs and this thing, we are not taking any kind of risk, but this is as per NFPA 13, it is allowed. But however, we are going with alternate fire protection system like the clean agent system for the electrical room, server room, IT room. So this is just the information for the as per the NFPA 13. So in clean agent system, we might have seen this abort switch. So the operable part of an abort switch shall be not less than 42 inch and not more than 48 from the finished floor. Okay, so with the finished floor level like this, from here we have to maintain minimum 42 and maximum 48 inch for the abort switch installation. And the next question is sidewall sprinkler for soffit and cabinet protection. Here both the soffit and cabinet together. So what is the rule? So sidewall sprinklers are permitted to be installed in the soffit space directly over the cabinet. Okay, without any additional sprinklers where the soffit is less than 12 inch from the wall. So here this distance from here to here, if it is less than 12 inch or less, no additional sprinklers are required. And if the distance is exceeding more than 12 inch, then we have to provide the sprinkler. The next question, should I install the sprinkler in the small opening? So in the project you normally see we will have the small access panel or small opening. So above these spaces it is called as a concealed spaces. So there are some special requirement in the NFPA, so we will see that. So first, why are sprinklers permitted to be omitted from certain concealed spaces? So because the access is impossible, it is very difficult to assess that one, and fuel load inside of the concealed space is very low, and physically it is impractical. As per NFPA, concealed spaces of non-combustible and limited combustible construction with minimal combustible loading having no access shall not require sprinkler protection. So in the site normally you can say that the space shall be considered a concealed space even with a small opening such as those used as a written air plenum. Okay, so like you see here in this image, we are using this small space even just for the simple written air plenum, that is also called as a concealed space. So you can ask me that in the normally in this ceiling above we have the duct is passing, and duct has the insulation, so that insulation is like a flammable or like a combustible item. So always in every project, that means every project must provide the sprinkler system, because every project duct is passing, duct has the insulation. So the reason here is, as per NFPA 13, the concealed spaces where rigid materials are used and the exposed surfaces have a flame spread index of 25. Okay, so if you are in the GCC, you are when you are submitting the material submittal, you can see the project specification, there will be a condition like duct insulation material, the flame spread index is not more than 25. Okay, so we have to comply with this one. So the flame spread index is less than 25 means it is not, we don't need to provide the sprinklers for this part. The next important thing here is we need to see what is small opening. Small opening finally articulated in 2016. Okay, so we will see two cases. First you will see what is room area. So room area is 40 feet into 25 feet. Then we have different small opening with 2 feet into 2 feet opening with to around 28 numbers. So here the rule is combination of all these openings should be less than 20% of the ceiling area. Here we have 2 feet by 2 feet by opening. So total the number of opening you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So total 7 in one row. So you can see total 7 by 4. The 7 by 4 it is total 28, and 28 with each one with the opening area of 2 feet by 2 feet. Total 4 feet square. So it is 112 feet square the opening area, and the total building area is like 40 into 25, it is like 1000. So compared with 112, 1000, it is less than 20% of the ceiling area compared with the combined area. So this is not considered as a, so we don't need to provide the sprinkler here. First you can see the one more item, like the gaps greater than 4 feet long need to be less than 8 inch wide. So if it is more than, like you see, this is like length is more than 4 feet means then this should be less than 8 feet. Okay, this distance, and you have to comply with these two conditions, then you can avoid the sprinkler. So the next question is, do we need sprinkler in the concealed space where we have the wood joist or similar solid members? So you have to follow two conditions, like the depth of this wood joist is not exceeding 14 inch, and the distance between the wood joist to the top of the ceiling must be maximum 6 inch. Okay, so if the two conditions are exceed, then we can avoid the sprinkler in the ceiling area. Next question is how to measure the maximum distance between the sprinkler. For example, if the sprinkler is sloped like this, so we have to measure the distance not like straight. We have to measure this distance along the slope orientation like this as shown here. We have to measure towards the slope from the center of the deflect to the another center of the deflector of the sprinkler, like as shown here. So the area of the sprinkler, the protection area of the sprinkler is equal to S into L. The S I measure from the center of the sprinkler deflector to another sprinkler center. Suppose in your case you have the upright sprinkler that is slightly moved away from the branch line, like as shown here. So you have to measure from the center of the sprinkler, not from the branch line. Branch line center to the branch line center is not allowed. You have to follow the distance from the center of the sprinkler deflector. So here what is the minimum distance between two standard spray sprinklers should be followed. So that is like 1.8 meter we have to follow between two sprinklers center of the deflector. So one reason for this minimum distance is cold soldering. If one sprinkler discharge on another, the second sprinkler will cool. So as a result, that sprinkler may not discharge on time, or it may not discharge at all. So proper spacing can prevent this unwanted problem from taking place. That is the reason we normally keep the minimum distance between two sprinklers. Standard space sprinkler is 1.8 meter. Next question is, what is the rule to measure the sprinkler from the ceiling based on the ceiling change? So first we need to understand, for example, you have the ordinary hazard. So for the ordinary hazard, as per NFPA 13, the maximum distance between the two sprinkler is 4.6 meter. So now come to this example. So we have the apartment building where we have the bulkhead type of ceiling. So the ceiling changes are like this. So if the depth of this area is like less than 36 inches, then we have to consider the sprinkler distance. So like I told you, we have the ordinary hazard. So ordinary hazard, the maximum spacing between two sprinklers is 4.6 meter. Then it can be 4.6 meter if it is less than 36 inch. For in our next case, if it is more than 36 inch, so the ordinary hazard, it is 4.6 meter maximum distance. So this need to be considered as a wall. So the wall means From here we need to apply the rule of half of S, that means half of 4.6, it will be 2.3 meter. Okay, so if it is more than 36 inches, then this should be considered as a wall, and we have to follow the rule of half of the maximum allowable sprinkler distance between the two sprinkler. We have to follow this rule. If it is less than 36 inch, then we can see we don't need to consider this one as a wall. Then this case we can mention like we can maintain like a maximum of 4.6 meter between the sprinklers. So the next important question is related to the travel distance. So we have the this question related to class 2 system. Class 2 system in, you can see here, it's a fire hose reel without landing wall, without a 2.5 inch landing wall. We have only fire hose reel here. So as per NFPA 14, you can see there are two arrangements. If you have 1.5 inch or 40 mm fire hose reel, then the travel distance between the two cabinet is 130 feet, and if you have 1 inch fire hose reel, then the travel distance will be 120 feet. Okay, so now we will see how to measure this travel distance from one to another. So suppose consider that we have a fire hose reel class 2 arrangement here, like shown here, near to this exit door. So the distance is, for example, I am considering 1.5 inch hose reel, so the distance should not exceed 130 square feet, 130 feet or 39.7 meter. Okay, so from here it will be like 39.7 meter, and again we have one more fire hose reel cabinet here. So from here again 39.7 meter. So these two should be measured at this point. Okay, so then we don't need any additional fire hose reel cabinet. Or suppose second case, in the second case you have the same fire hose reel cabinet here. From here it is 39.7 meter, and you have another fire hose reel cabinet. So from here the 39.7 meter ends here. So that means there is a dead zone here. Okay, so that time what will happen, we will have to provide the additional fire hose reel cabinet at this point. So this should be measured, like it should be considered like if there is no overlapping between these two fire hose reel cabinet here and here, then additional fire hose reel cabinet should be installed in between that. Because sometimes what problem happen is, suppose you have a building here and you have the exit corridor here. So here we have one fire hose cabinet. So 39.7 meter is the 1.5 inch travel distance. So what happens, sometimes 39.7 meter from here, again some people install the fire hose cabinet here, again from here 39.7 meter another fire hose cabinet. So it is installed like this. So this is wrong. Okay, so we have to follow this type of concept for the installation.